Hi, I'm Aubrey.
Hi, I'm Kathleen. We're two friends having a good time.
I happen to be a Christian, and that's okay.
And I happen to be an atheist, and that's okay.
Welcome to the Christian and the Atheist podcast.
Let's dive in.
Hey guys, have you left a review for our podcast yet? Head over to wherever you listen to your podcast and do that right now.
And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at The Christian and the Atheist, and TikTok at Christian and Atheist.
Check us out on Patreon for ad-free content.
And speaking of ads, if you or your business would like to sponsor the Christian and the Atheist podcast, feel free to contact us to get started.
Welcome everybody to the Christian and the Atheist podcast. Today we're talking to Tom, a priest who's also a Buddhist priest specifically.
Yes.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
We are sitting in the Buddhist temple in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Tom took us on a tour throughout the facility and
The grounds. It's
we're
beautiful.
So excited to show everybody everything.
Yes.
So we're just going to kind of do questions over Buddhism, and Tom here is going to give us the answers to his best ability.
Yeah.
And
That's an important caveat. To
Yes.
the best of my ability.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
but I think our listeners know, through Kathleen and through me, that we don't have all the answers for her past religion and now my current, and some of the stuff is just different. So, can you tell us what the basic tenets of Buddhism is?
Yeah. Buddhism to me is a very cohesive and well integrated set of beliefs and philosophy. So there are several that I will mention, but they all make a cohesive whole and support each other. So the first one I will talk about is one I already mentioned to you, and that is impermanence. There is nothing in this world that is permanent, including the three of us.
Yeah.
Right? We are not permanent. We will arise, come into being, and we will have our time, our lives, and we will pass. And this is true of everything, from an amoeba to a mountain, right? There's nothing that is permanent, and this is really reflected strongly in our Buddhist beliefs, in our faith. By that I mean, when we look at, you hear people talking about the soul, right? And in Buddhism, you'll hear them deny that there is a soul. To me, we're talking a little bit we're getting into semantics, because we don't believe there is an eternal soul, because everything changes, right? Because everything changes. And we don't believe in a permanent or eternal hell, because you will be, at some point, reborn again. You may be cast into hell for doing evil, but it's for a finite period of time. Could be a very long time, but it's a finite period of time. And you will then be reborn into another realm. There are about 6 realms that you can be born into. One is a human realm, right?
Okay.
So these realms that you can be born into some are good, some are not so good, right? So, but you will be reborn. Human realm is the best, because it's only from the human realm that you can achieve enlightenment and eventually nirvana.
Okay.
We believe in compassion. We believe that all beings are not just worthy, but are in need of compassion. That it should be a universal value, and in our lives we should strive to be compassionate and to offer compassion and loving kindness to others. What else should I mention? We do believe that inside you, inside me, there is a Buddha, and we call this Buddha nature.
Okay.
And Buddha nature is a pure state that we are each able to, through meditation or our other faith practices, that you can find this Buddha nature and tap into this Buddha nature. We obviously believe in peace, right? Yeah. We believe in a concept called emptiness. And this is, I think, one that is too easily misinterpreted.
Okay.
Because it probably doesn't have a real good connotation, emptiness. But what emptiness means is that we want to we are by nature, our Buddha nature is empty. By empty, I mean empty of preconceived notions.
Okay.
Empty of bias. So if we can get into that pure state of mind, that Buddha nature, then we can see truth in the universe. We can see through our own delusions. And so when a Buddhist talks about truth, a Buddhist is talking about the fact that we are or have become deluded because we learn things, right? And we learn things based on hearsay, based on opinion. I'm not going to go into the political realm here, but you know what I'm talking about here, right? What the quote truths and mistruths that we get from the media every day, right? And we call this the 10,000 things. You're bombarded by 10,000 things every day. So in a state of emptiness, then we can filter all of that out, and we can see what naturally arises. And if we bring our opinions and our whatever our beliefs are, if we bring that into a situation, it will change that situation, and it will only allow certain things to come forth. If we are devoid of that, if we start in a position of emptiness, then whatever would naturally occur can occur without bias. So when we talk about delusion, we are saying that we are all deluded, and that if we tap into our Buddha nature, then we are able to cut through that delusion, and we are able to see and practice the truth.
Interesting.
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I do appreciate the idea of letting go of all of the noise, essentially, and just focusing on love and peace and kindness and compassion. I like that.
Like
I
working
that
towards that, yeah. So were there like rules to follow when you were Buddhist?
Well, there are, of course, the Buddha laid out the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path.
Right.
So the Eightfold Path is all about how you should live your life. So is it a rule? Well, we do the best we can. We all do. Whatever your religion is, we all try and do the best we can,
of course.
right? The Four Noble Truths are, there is suffering in this world.
Yeah.
Number two, and if you know anything about the Buddha, his whole point, he never intended to start a new religion. His whole point was the alleviation of suffering, right? Four Noble Truths. There is suffering in this world. Number two, suffering has a cause, right? Number three, the cause is attachment and delusion. We have what we call the three poisons. The three poisons are hatred, ignorance, Hatred, ignorance, and there is greed. Hatred, ignorance, and greed are the three poisons. And if you think about the ills that plague this world today, I think you will find one of those at work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we think that these three poisons taint us. They are very appealing to us, right? Greed, I mean, I want, and hatred, you see that too much every day. And ignorance means the delusion that I was speaking of, so the inability to see the truth. So those are the three poisons. Why was I telling you about the three? You can make
The rules.
this part.
No, the rules.
Oh,
Yes.
the rules. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll go back and recap the Four Noble Truths. There is suffering in the world. Suffering has a cause, mostly due to the three poisons. If suffering has a cause, it can have a cure. You can alleviate suffering, and the way you alleviate suffering is by following the Eightfold Path.
Okay.
So the Eightfold Path is I wouldn't use the term. I think rules is a bit strong, but it is a guideline of how we should live our lives. The first two steps on the Eightfold Path are to see the truth, right? To cut through delusion and to see the truth. And secondly, though, you have to have intention. Intention is very important in Buddhism, right? So if you have the right intention, then it goes a long way for you, because we know that everything you do, every action you take has consequences. There are intended consequences, but there are unintended consequences. And the unintended consequences are outside of your control. So the consequences are there, but the important thing, most important, is what was your intention, right? So first two steps have to do with seeing the world clearly and basically wanting to do good in the world, having the right intention.
Okay.
The next three steps on the Eightfold Path are about how you go about your daily life. One, do it truthfully. I mentioned truthfulness to you before. Make sure you're telling the truth, but also make sure that truth is helpful to the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Criticism is okay, but it has to be what we would know as constructive criticism.
Yes.
It has to be good.
Yeah.
That you live the right livelihood, right? In other words, don't work in a job that brings harm to others. There are a lot of jobs like that, right? But your intention should be to do a job that is beneficial and does not bring harm, and then to do good things in this world, right? To take right action, to have kind of a moral code, an ethical code, and act on your intention to do good things in this world. The last three are about your spiritual practice. So those are making the right effort, right? Put some effort into your spiritual practice, right? We hear talk about people who are just good on Sundays, right?
Yes.
Or that's their time to be spiritual, but through the week, we believe that 24/7, right? You need to be conscious of and making an effort to do things correctly. Right focus. That you are focused in your spiritual practice, that you are focused on the right things. And by the way, in our practice, that has a lot to do with your meditation, right? That you do your meditation and you are able to focus that meditation, and then right concentration. So you are able not just to focus, but then you are able to sustain that focus and concentrate on those right things and bring your spiritual practice full then. So that's the Eightfold Path. It's not a rule per se.
Yeah.
But this is definitely a guideline as to how you should live your life.
Awesome.
So y'all speak of a realm that is like less desired, what you like, kind of like hell, but not where you reside forever. Do y'all have like, don't do this or you'll go to hell like Christianity does?
No, so give me the question again.
Sorry, so like, you know how in Christianity we have hell, and like you would think people that like murder and do bad things.
Yes.
So do y'all have like a list that's like, don't do this or you'll go there?
Yeah.
Because like in Christianity, even just being gay will get you in hell.
Yeah.
Which I don't agree with.
Yeah.
So is there anything that's much different or similar to that?
So I'd say this. What will get you into hell is being evil,
Yeah.
right? So so I'm going to venture a little bit into my own opinion and practice here, right?
It's okay.
Being gay is not evil,
I agree.
right?
Yeah.
And it will not get you into hell. That's my.
We like you even more.
We
Right.
agree.
yeah.
That is just. It's almost. I can't even believe that would happen.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Same.
sure, murder.
Yeah.
Intentional.
Right.
Intentional cruelty.
Right.
To human beings or animals, things of that nature.
Right.
So I'm talking real evil.
Yeah.
Not
Not
evil that people make up
Social
as.
stigmas for
Yeah.
some, not all.
So there are. I mentioned there are 6 realms. There are 2 other negative realms.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, one is the realm of animals, right?
Oh, yeah.
If you were too dependent, you didn't pull your own weight, you may be reborn into the realm of animals, right? But animals, again, it's temporary. So I believe, well, there's a famous question. You've heard, what's the sound of one hand clapping, right? Among Buddhists, there is a very famous question. Does a dog have Buddha nature, right? Does a dog have Buddha nature? And we all know there's a trick question, part of that question, but the answer one monk received, kind of a famous, what we call koan, a situation to puzzle out, right? But the bottom line answer is yes, a dog has Buddha nature. A cat has Buddha nature. A cow has Buddha nature. They can be born again into another realm and achieve enlightenment and eventually nirvana. So there's the realm of animals. There is the realm, this is, by the way, one of my favorites, because I love the not favorites from I'd want to be their point of view, favorites from the depiction.
Okay.
So there is the realm of hungry ghosts. Hungry ghosts
Sounds
are people.
amazing.
Hungry ghosts are people who were greedy, right? I can't get enough. I can't get enough. So the depiction of a hungry ghost is of a caricature with this huge belly, right? A long skinny neck, and a little tiny head with a little tiny mouth. You can't get enough, right? You just can't. No matter how much you try and eat, you just don't have the capacity to do that.
How funny.
So that's the realm of hungry ghosts for people who are greedy, for people who are evil, right? So the hell is for people who are evil, people who were sloth-ish, right? Realm of animals, people who were greedy, the realm of hungry ghosts. There are good realms.
Yeah.
There is a realm of gods and divas, people who were wonderful, did great things, right? And were compassionate, but they did not attain enlightenment.
Okay.
So they can be reborn into the realm of gods and divas. There is a realm of asuras, again, very good people, but maybe they're a little too aggressive in their good beliefs. Right. So they went a little too far in defense of the Dharma, right? So they can be reborn in the realm of Asuras. Then there's the human realm, which, as I mentioned, is the best, because only in the human realm can you become enlightened.
How does someone become enlightened? How do you achieve that?
How do you become
enlightened? How do you achieve enlightenment?
How do you choose? Oh, wow. Okay. So this is.
I'm asking the hard-hitting questions over here.
I'm going to. Unfortunately, Steve had to leave us, but Steve has a quote that I want to quote.
Okay.
And he pulls this from, I think, an ancient Buddhist philosopher by the name of Dogen.
Okay.
And what he said was, you may not necessarily be aware of your own enlightenment. Right? How do you achieve enlightenment? There's a lot of debate about this, right? And so you may start that debate by saying that you achieve enlightenment through meditation.
Okay.
And there are so many camps on this. Some believe in sudden enlightenment, a master epiphany, right? Poof, and you are enlightenment. You are enlightened. I honestly believe that's possible. There is gradual enlightenment, where through your study and your good work and your meditation and your experience, you become gradually, I think this is more often the case, you become gradually enlightened, right? Through a series of epiphanies or revelations where I tell people often that I think Buddhism comes in layers. that I often think, oh, okay, I've learned this now. I've got a good handle on this.
Right.
Only to find 7 weeks later that like there's, oh, wow, I didn't even get that, right? It's now I have to add that to and it's another layer deeper. And you work through it and you work through it.
Yeah.
Isn't
that just life, though? Right. Isn't that just how it always goes? You always think, oh, we're in a great spot, we got it, and then suddenly the car breaks down, and you got to do something else.
Exactly. I've got this, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, you don't.
Yeah, you never do.
Right. There's a little more to unfold.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? What is enlightenment?
What is enlightenment?
Yes.
Well, just as how do you get enlightened? What is enlightenment?
Yeah.
Is a subject of a lot of discussion. Right?
Okay.
But I have one of the temple members here that I really respect. He will tell you that enlightenment is being at ease and comfortable with whatever arises.
I have not been enlightened.
Yeah.
You're not there yet?
I'm still unsettled.
As seeing it emerge in its natural place.
Nice. Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to get there one day.
Doesn't that sound nice?
Others will just tell you it's perfect clarity.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not there either.
Yeah.
Not bad.
Unencumbered truth.
Okay.
Pure awareness. Right. So I can throw those around as a way to define it. If I'm enlightened, I'm not aware of it.
Yeah.
Right? So you may not be aware of your own enlightenment.
Right.
We talk a lot about it. It's for most of us, and I'll talk about something else in a minute, secular Buddhists as opposed to traditional or religious Buddhists. But it's for most of us, it's what we're trying to attain. But I think it's elusive.
Yeah.
And maybe when you get there, you will know, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll be like, wow.
Have you met somebody that says they're enlightened? Yeah.
Yeah, I have.
Are they young or old?
I've met 3 or 4 people that I think are truly enlightened. Yeah. One is a Zen master, my Zen master, right? And my teacher. Another, there are a pair of monks that run a retreat center and hermitage on the East Coast.
Okay.
They have been ordained in both Theravada and Mahayana Buddhism.
Okay.
I truly believe they're both enlightened. And I have met a Tibetan Rinpoche that I'm most convinced of this person's enlightenment. Yeah.
Do you think that, does Buddhism believe in reincarnation into the human realm?
So I mentioned that we're going to talk about secular Buddhists. So when Buddhism moves to another country, when it moves down the road, right? Yeah. It changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything changes, right? It changes, and maybe some folk religion gets incorporated a little bit. This story comes, and then there is a Buddhist explanation. This, by the way, is true of all religions.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They adapt.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you go to a new place, and you want people to be able to grab onto something and identify.
Yeah.
It changes, right? When it moved from the east to the west, then it changes. There's a gentleman wrote a book. His name is D.T. Suzuki. So the initial Buddhist teachings, I think, came here probably from Japan, right? And they were Zen. And when it comes to the West, it changes. And what happens? So in the Western tradition, there is less, what secular Buddhists are typically looking for is a meditative lifestyle, a moral and ethical lifestyle, and they find this in Buddhism. They do not necessarily, you'll hear people say, well, that individual created a hell on earth. That one created a heaven on earth. So their belief in karma and the results of karma tend to be very immediate and not necessarily extend to the experience of death or after death.
Okay.
An Eastern traditional, quote, religious Buddhist is more likely to believe that when you pass, you spend up to 49 days in a transition called the bardo.
Okay.
And where your next life is picked out, right? Is assigned. It becomes, you become born into another life. And that life can be in what we call samsara. Samsara being the world that we know, the reality that we know here on earth, right? It could be to nirvana. It depends on, did you become enlightened, right? And so if you have become enlightened following your death, there is this potential to travel to nirvana. So it depends. So there will be the very traditional beliefs of Buddhism are that, yes, it is rebirth. And rebirth is a little distinct from reincarnation.
So you're like a different person completely. I don't know how that works.
It's like you carry seeds, right?
Yeah.
You carry your karma.
Okay.
And you can carry a thread of consciousness. But you're right, it could be a different person.
Interesting.
In rebirth.
Yeah.
Reincarnation, you're talking about your very soul is reincarnated.
Right.
And that's not a pure Buddhist belief. Go ahead.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a Bible? I have a Bible. She had a Book of Mormon. What do Buddhists have?
I see religious texts back here.
Yes.
What are they?
Yes. So a lot of these texts here are going to be chanting, right?
Okay.
And there are going to be different chants for different occasions that ask for or put you in a different state of things.
Sort of like a prayer, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Kind of like a prayer. Yeah.
Nice.
Although we pray too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what we have is the Dharma, right, which is the teachings of the Buddha, and they are expressed in sutras. I mentioned to you earlier the Heart Sutra, right? A sutra is a teaching written down on paper. There are 84,000 of these.
I was about to be like, can you tell us about them? No.
Yeah, no, I can't. Right.
That is a much
Not right
longer
now.
episode.
That's right. That would be, yeah. We might, if we started down that road, we might think there actually was eternity. So, yeah. As opposed to our beliefs in impermanence.
Yeah.
So there's the mantras. Is there anything else? It's just, or is it the books that you guys have?
You know, yeah. It's a very interesting question because you look at traditional Buddhists that are, and I would define myself as a traditional, quote, religious Buddhist. Right? But you have secular Buddhists, and those Buddhists are there is a lot of books that are written currently to explain Buddhism, to explain Buddhist belief and phenomena, right? And there are some very good ones, some really good ones. A secular Buddhist is more likely, I read a lot of these too, but the secular Buddhist is probably more likely to read books like that. A religious Buddhist is probably going to be a little more likely to study the sutras.
Okay.
If you go to a Buddhist monastery and you are on the path to become a monk, you are probably going to engage in some sutra study. Each lineage, each Buddhist sect is going to have maybe particular sutras that it favors and that you study more.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's interesting. So there's ceremonies that you guys do. I'm sure there's a million. Is there any that you favor personally that you would like to explain to us?
So a lot of our Buddhist holidays will be built around will have ceremonial aspects to them, right? So number one, I particularly like the one that's coming up, which is Buddha's birthday. And it will happen this month, right? No, it's not May yet. It will happen in May, right? And we have a particular service and a particular ceremony for that. And the service, by the way, we will not have an English language Sangha service. Sangha means the congregation, right? We will not have a service that day. We will join with the Vietnamese here, and we will all celebrate the Buddha's birthday together. So there will be chanting. There will be a Dharma talk, right? A sermon for all intents, right?
That helps me understand.
But there will be a ceremony in which we have a statue of the baby Buddha. And the statue of the baby Buddha, the Buddha is pointing at heaven, right? And that statue is about this tall, and it will sit right here in an urn. And that urn, or a basin, that basin will be filled with pure, holy water and flower petals. And we will line up, everybody will line up, and for, two lines actually, and we have two ladles. And the ceremonial part is that you bathe and purify the baby Buddha. So each person comes in their turn and ladles pure water and flower petals over the baby Buddha. I love that.
Yeah. So what's the symbolism of bathing the baby Buddha?
It is a cleansing, and we then can take part in that cleansing. And it's an act of love and compassion. So, and these are, of course, cornerstones of Buddhist beliefs, yeah.
What day is that on, just out of curiosity? Do you know?
The day changes.
It does?
Because again, we're on a lunar calendar, and
Right.
that day will change. It'll typically be mid-May.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Very cool.
Is it okay for people that may not practice Buddhism come and do that still, even like if we're not? So it might, like, some places baptize to become part of it, the church, or sign a document. I don't know. Is that a thing that y'all require for others to see this or be a part of it? Okay.
You can come and be part of it. Anyone can come and be part. Just about anything we do is very open, and anyone can come and be part. Yeah.
Perfect. So since we talked about if we're allowed to come and see it, what does a normal service look like? And how does it, like, from start to end, how does it happen?
Okay. So our service starts at 9 a.m. on Sunday morning. For the first approximately 20 minutes, we're going to have the worship part of our service. And we're going to have an invocation. We're going to have prayers. We're going to do some chanting, right? We're going to do some bowing. Bowing is interesting because you don't get this in the East, but in the West, people are like, wait a minute, right?
Yeah.
I don't bow down to
Yeah, I know what you mean.
a big ego thing. By the way, ego is a big topic. Big topic for me, anyhow, in my Buddhism,
Okay.
right? But right, but bowing becomes a thing. Bowing shows respect, and that's why we do it. We show our respect to the Buddha. It is not showing submission or deference.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
So, like, I mean, so you're not showing submission at all? Like, it's just
No.
a respect?
You are respecting, in a way, it's like you are saying, I respect the Buddha in you.
So, because you and your friend Steve both bowed. Well, he
Yes.
bowed. I'm not sure if I shook your hand, but he bowed to us after
Yes.
we shook his hand a
Yeah.
while. And I was
So-
like, well, that's thoughtful. And I appreciated it. And I wanted to show the same respect, but I'm not used to that. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a typical Buddhist greeting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's called gasso.
Okay.
Gasso. And it is, just as I just mentioned, you are bowing, you are paying respect to the Buddha within you. And when you bow back, you pay respect to the Buddha within me.
Okay.
Gasso.
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I respect that, and
Yeah.
I think it's thoughtful too.
Yeah.
So y'all are doing that
During
lots
the
of
Sunday
bowing, so
service.
that's part of that. Yeah. So the bowing happens
Yeah.
to the statues.
Right. So and there will be a few standing bows,
Yeah.
and then there will be 3 times when you do a complete prostration,
Okay.
right, during our service.
Okay.
Following that worship part of the service, then we get to about 20 after 9, and we're going to sit and have silent meditation. So meditation will be part of the service, right? And a person can meditate in whatever, there are a lot of different ways to meditate, a lot, right? And a person can meditate in whatever style they're used to, that they are comfortable with. And that might also include, most people are going to sit in place, you know, but that's not necessarily all. A person might get up and do walking meditation and circumambulate the temple space here. A person may do standing meditation. On occasion, we've had people recline. As in the statue you saw, as in the reclining Buddha. Right? That is not always recommended because sometimes we have to go poke you when the snoring gets too loud. Right? But there will be 20 minutes. A person may meditate by following the breath. A person may meditate by reciting a mantra. A person might meditate in what I call listening to the silence, right? Just in a state of awareness and quiet. So we do meditation for about 20 minutes. And that's going to bring us to about 20 till 10. At that point, we're going to introduce the Dharma talk for the day, Dharma discussion, and I use that term for a reason. A Dharma talk is when somebody talks, and then you're done, right? We have a Dharma discussion. So we have the leader, the Dharma leader for that day, will talk about a teaching of the Buddha, or an application of the teachings of the Buddha, or how does this work in my own life, or I don't know, a story about a bodhisattva, or maybe talk about a particular sutra, whatever the topic. We ask that person to talk for maybe 20 minutes to about 10 o'clock and introduce this topic and give whatever salient points there are, and then throw it open and say, what do you think?
Wow.
What are your questions? What are your opinions? Do you think it's right? You know, how do you respond to this? Have you had a similar experience? How did that play out? So it is, why? Because we all have something to teach each other.
Nice.
And because I want people's questions answered. Yeah. Because this person might explain it in a way that resonates with that person better than what we taught. Yeah. For all kinds of reasons, right? But that's a discussion. That takes us up to 10:15. We have a small closing to our service, and then we're done.
Nice. Does the discussion ever get heated? Do people ever disagree and get upset and you're wrong, I'm out of here?
I've never experienced that.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've heard people express different points of view, but I have never, and I don't expect ever to hear
it doesn't seem like it's the Buddhist style.
Right. It doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
But
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So how does somebody become a Buddhist? If I were to want to, I don't know if convert is the right term, but how would that happen?
Yeah. So in my belief, right, a person becomes a Buddhist. I'll look at how did I become a Buddhist, right? And so from when I was first introduced to it, I was about 20, right? And when I was first introduced, I mean, first of all, I was 20. I wasn't all that mature at 20. But
Me either.
Nobody is. Nobody is.
But
You think you are.
I just thought, oh, this is interesting. And by the way, I came to one conclusion, and everything kind of springboarded from that. My conclusion was that the fact that I was born into Christianity was an accident of birth. It was a geographical anomaly, right? I could have been born. What if I were born in Pakistan?
Yeah, you would have been born something else, most likely.
What if I were born in Japan? Right? And this kind of started to weigh on me a little heavily. What if I were born anywhere else? I'd be something else, and I wouldn't be expected to believe that that was the truth.
Right.
But it was by accident. So at that point, I started looking at, what if I knew more? I better know more about all the religions in the world. And so I tried to get to know a lot more about them. I figured then if I knew something about them, I'd know what their central tenets were, and I'd know where they agreed with one another. And if I knew where they agreed, then I would know maybe some universal truths. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the platform I started from. And so it's kind of a journey of seeking. And I will say that for me, Christianity never resonated. Some people, I mean, it's like, yes, you know,
Right.
and it didn't for me. So a few years after I was introduced to Buddhism in Korea, I was in the service, I was stationed in Hawaii. And I was just a couple of blocks down from a fairly large Buddhist temple. So I got to see a little more and say, oh, this really is interesting. After that, now we're talking the 70s, and meditation became a big thing.
A little more
And I was
mainstream.
interested in that, right? And so it was a progressive learning. I continued to go to church, but the church I continued to go to changed. I started going to a Unitarian Universalist church, which was very open and a very unencumbered search for the truth.
Yeah.
And through that, I started to study more Buddhism. I became associated with a temple when I worked during my work life. I would travel a lot for my work, so I was into meditation. So I would find a group to meditate with on Wednesday nights, big meditation night, right? So wherever I traveled to frequently, I would look for a place where I could sit in meditation with people, and I found that in Houston, and I looked specifically for a Korean temple, found that, came to meet the Zen master, I hit it off, started going to the Zen Master's Temple, which is in the Daniel Boone National Forest in eastern Kentucky.
Wow.
Became more and more involved, eventually got ordained. And when you officially become, I'm going to back up to what is my belief. My belief is that if you believe the Buddhist teachings, if you come to consider yourself Buddhist, you're a Buddhist. That's, you can self-declare. There is, and this is almost universal in all different Buddhist sects. So there is a ceremony that you can take, and this is called refuge and precepts.
Right.
You take refuge in the Buddha, you take refuge in the Dharma, the teachings of the Buddha, and you take refuge in the Sangha, the community of followers. And you take this in front of a monk or a priest. You take refuge, and then same ceremony. You take the 5 precepts. I shall not kill, I shall not steal, I shall not misuse or abuse sexuality, I will tell the truth, but only when it's helpful, and I will not misuse or abuse intoxicants, so I don't become irresponsible. So there is a ceremony for that. This is kind of your official stamp of, yes, in fact, you are Buddhist, right? And so maybe it's a little like a confirmation.
Yeah.
Right.
But that ceremony of refuge and precepts is almost universal.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're allowed to have alcohol, just not in excess, or no? What do you think?
It all depends,
Okay.
right? I have taken part in ceremonies where this is an absolute prohibition of any sex outside of marriage, or an absolute prohibition of alcohol. I think you will find this range in churches, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have been in and conducted ceremonies where the definition is not so strict. Yeah, you can have a drink,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
don't become so loopy that you're irresponsible, that you put
Right.
yourself and others in danger.
Yeah.
So,
And like smoking pot. Can you smoke
Yeah.
pot?
yeah,
Yeah.
Just
I think so.
yeah. Just don't be crazy.
And then you said like sex out of marriage. So marriage between 2 people that are adults that consent to being married to each other, or is it just male and female?
I'm going to quote the Dalai Lama,
Okay.
right? So this isn't, things like being gay, having a different sexual identity, these just didn't so much come up. You know, it was just live a good life with good intentions and do good things. So, but the Dalai Lama was asked this question, right, about this very topic, right, about alternative forms of relationships.
Right.
So the Dalai Lama was asked, and the Dalai Lama, I don't know, maybe it had never been asked before, but maybe he formulated his answer on the spot, I don't know, but his belief was. And he said, you know, if two people love each other, and if their relationship is consensual, then you have no problem.
Yeah. Agree.
I thought that was pretty simple.
Yeah.
And I can easily line up behind that belief.
Same.
Yeah. Because it's not misuse. It's not abuse.
Yeah.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
So is the say it again?
Dalai Lama.
Sorry, Dalai Lama. My brain had a moment. But is he Buddhist?
Yes.
Part of the Buddhist community?
There is, the Dalai Lama is probably the best known Buddhist figure in the world.
I'm so sorry I didn't realize that.
Yeah. But people think that he is over all of Buddhism, and that is not the case.
Okay.
Buddhism is like there are, how many different sects of Christian churches are there in Tulsa?
Insane amounts.
Several.
Can we
An
even
insane amount,
Yeah.
right? Well, this is no different for Buddhism, right?
I remember somebody at one point saying, you know, people, especially in Christianity, maybe look at the Dalai Lama like Catholics would look at the Pope, and that's not necessarily the case. Yeah.
Right. Not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
The Dalai Lama presides over only a very, very small portion
Okay.
of Tibetan Buddhists.
Okay.
But his influence is astronomically larger than that,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
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 So
I
he
think
is
that-
very well known, the best known of all the Buddhists in the world. And so he carries a very lot of influence.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So there's monks and nuns actually living to the right of us,
Yes.
left of you. And can you explain their roles in Buddhism?
Sure. So their roles are very much the same, although, and again, you have a different lineage, a different sect
Yeah.
of Buddhism,
Okay.
and that's gonna change.
Okay.
So here we have two monks, and they are Vietnamese, right? They come here from Vietnam on a clerical passport, right, and or visa, clerical visa, and they preside over. It's the same as. It's really not going to be any different than a minister or a priest, right?
Oh.
They preside over this sangha. They do the services. They do the ceremonies. If someone from the temple passes, they do those services. If there's a birth, if there's a wedding, they do those.
Okay.
They're here for that.
Gotcha.
They're here to counsel people. They're here to
good.
take care of this temple and all of its members. So they are the spiritual leaders of the temple.
Okay.
Nice.
The nun's role is not too different from that, right? She is also a spiritual teacher. When we, and this is what the role of the nun, you will find it is different and will change.
Okay.
So I'm going to use, now I'm going to use Zen. Vietnamese Buddhism is, quote, Pure Land Zen.
Okay.
And that's a set of beliefs and roles. Zen here in the U.S. as it passes into Western, to have Western members and practitioners, right? It changes. And so in my lineage, then your Zen master can be male or female.
Okay.
We have ordained female Zen masters in my temple. We have the Zen master who is the original leader, but he has passed lineage to females, and so you can have a male or a female. The role, a lot of what the nun here does would fall into traditional gender lines.
Yeah.
Let me use that term, yeah. And so you found her in the kitchen. But if she's not in the kitchen, the monks will be in the kitchen, right? And they'll be preparing their own meal.
Yeah.
But she does the chanting. She is on the podium when we have service. She has a leadership role.
Okay.
And I think I'm done there.
Yeah. Good. Great.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have a community outreach? Y'all do stuff out in the community in like honor of being Buddhist?
That's a very good question, because traditionally, this Vietnamese community here has been not so much a part of the community. There, and some for obvious reasons, right? There are language barriers, right? The monks and the nun, they speak English, but not as fluently.
Right.
So that made some barriers. Recently, some things change. And so if you notice, when you contact, maybe you don't know, you did, but a lot of people just contact the temple.
Yeah.
And when it's English speaking, they forward that message to me. And so we are much more, we don't have that language barrier.
Right.
So we are much more inclined to, so I've been able to do a lot of speaking to public groups.
Yes.
But also now the monks there have been a couple of public ceremonies in Tulsa where they were ecumenical in nature, where a lot of different religious entities participated, and they have started and begun to participate in that.
Cool.
We're going to do this coming Saturday. Some of our members are going to do a road cleanup.
Nice. Very nice.
So we are moving slowly out there a little more, right?
And I think that,
and we participate in the Tulsa City County Library Asian Festival,
which I love. That's how we met, and I think that is a really good place to share culture and religion and everything like that for people like me who have no like avenue in there. I was like, this was a step in that helped me broaden my worldview, and I loved it. And I loved it for my kids and the community as well. So
nice. Okay,
so we always ask a question. Do you want to ask it?
Yeah, we ask it to every guest, unless we forget. We've been trying to make sure we don't forget. But where do you think we go when we die? Personally, where is your personal mindset?
Well, that's a showstopper question, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why we ask it.
and it really, I think it's a great question because it really puts a person's faith it really brings it to the front.
Yeah.
Right? So where do I think? There was a period in my life when I thought, I think when you're dead, you're dead. But I've changed that view. And my view of faith has changed because of it. I never understood faith when I was a Christian. Never understood it. I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
But then I start studying Buddhism. And admittedly, I'm a little more robust in my studies, right? And I start learning and reading, and I find that everything that Buddhism teaches me that I can test is true. It's I haven't found a slip up yet, right? Everything I see that I can test or experience is true. That gives me faith. And in that faith, I think, so the things that they're teaching that I can't yet test or know, then I have faith that they're true also. So I tend to think that after death, I will be reborn. Maybe in this realm, maybe in some other realm, but that's the path that's going to occur.
Beautiful.
Thank you for sharing that. I have another question. That you said you were Christian, you grew up Christian. Can I ask what kind of denomination you grew up
Yeah,
in?
Methodist.
Okay, that's not bad. I mean, it's like not the heavier ones.
Yeah, it's not the most
So-
intense out there.
Yeah, because the Methodism tends to be fairly
Yeah.
Yeah.
open,
Yeah.
liberal,
Ish.
little understanding.
Yeah.
At
Yes.
least. Yeah.
We actually just interviewed a month or so ago, a Methodist preacher, and she was lovely. Yeah.
And affirming
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind, and
Yeah.
she did end up leaving and going elsewhere with her. She's not a pastor anymore, but
Yeah.
anyways, with that being said, what made you leave Christianity, and then did you go from Christianity to Buddhism?
So I have this dormant period,
Yeah.
right? So I leave I basically left Christianity. Doesn't mean I still didn't go to church.
Yeah.
But when I was 25, something
Okay.
like that. Because I raised children. And my wife is not Buddhist.
Okay.
And I wanted to honor her desire to have our sons brought up in a fairly traditional Christian
Right.
church, right?
Okay.
And so we did that. But then I went back when they were grown, as they grew. Then I went back to the Unitarian. I had started going to Unitarian Universalist Church. I really like it. To this day, I am a member of the Unitarian Universalist Buddhist Alliance. So,
Cool.
so and I really have a lot of respect for the Unitarian
Yeah.
Universalist Church, and so I was with that for quite a while. One of there are 7 principles that Unitarian Universalists live by. One of them says you must commit yourself to your own spiritual growth and encourage that in others. And I was the president of the board of my local Unitarian Universalist church. And and it was kind of we only had a part-time minister. So we wound up giving a lot of Sunday talks. And after a while, I noticed that the talks I gave were all Buddhist, right? They were all on some aspect of Buddhism.
Right.
And I thought, I must be Buddhist.
That's a sign.
Yeah, that's a sign. Right? And so that's when I started coming to temple. And we're talking 10, 12 years.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for spending the time with us.
Yes, we really appreciate
This
it.
was everything I wanted it to be.
We got a beautiful tour. Your temple is lovely.
Yes.
I'm just sitting here as you talk, looking at all these beautiful flowers and fruit, and it feels very peaceful and lovely and warm and
Yeah.
inviting, and we really appreciate you.
Well cared for.
Yes.
So, if anybody who wants to know more about the Tulsa Buddhist temple here, how can they find that?
First of all, we do have a Facebook page
Excellent.
that is the Tom Bao English Language Sangha. Facebook page. You can find us there. And you can message me from that page. You can message me. You can find me at tom.perrine@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my email. You can
Perfect.
ask a question there.
Excellent. Well, we'll link, when we put the episode out, we'll put the link to the Facebook page and everything. That way people can just click it and find it.
Yeah.
Easy.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode. Bye. Thank you.